G'day, folks. This is Jay from JayTalk. And of course, we have our wonderful co host, Nick from the Nick Drop.
It's funny every time I do it. Every time.
So, of course, we'd like to welcome our wonderful host, our wonderful guest, Heather.
Hi.
So, and is it
Hello, Heather.
Lottering?
Lottering.
Lottering.
Well, if you heard my husband say it, it doesn't sound anything like that either.
What does your husband say it like?
Lottering? He's from South Africa, so it's a South African.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
sounds like winners to me.
Yes.
Lottery.
Yeah,
Whatever.
exactly. That's what we've heard that before.
Really?
That's right.
That's funny. So, I'm going to start with our guest first. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Considering.
Yes, considering.
Okay. So, Nick?
I think definitely impacted. How about that?
That's a good answer. Nick, how are you?
Doing good, man. I'm not one for watching the news, so we're all kind of taken back of what happened today. So, it kind of turns the mood a little bit.
Yes.
So
I agree.
How about you, brother?
I'm okay. Probably in the same boat everybody is, a little emotional.
Right.
The story is definitely heart jerking. I wouldn't even say tear jerking, it's heart jerking.
Right.
So, and with that, I'm going to do a 10-second moment of silence for the people at Valley, the school, the elementary school. I don't even think we have a full picture yet. It's just really, really hard to grasp everything. We decided to go ahead and do the show because it really, there's some mental health that's going to be surrounding this whole situation, and I think it's important for us to talk about it. So
Right.
We'll go ahead and do a quick 10 second moment of silence, and then I'll pick back up. So you can say a prayer or do whatever you want, but starting now. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's terrible, man. That's just terrible.
So, you're going to say something, Heather?
Oh no, I was agreeing. Absolutely. It's like you were saying, mental health. It struck me immediately, like just the mental health crisis our country really is in, and we just keep circling around it.
Yes. Yeah. I exactly. What was it? We were talking with Julie. I took the mental health first aid class, and Julie, of course, talked about the stigma around mental health and talking about that. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for the foundation.
Yes. Okay. So, as you know, I'm Heather Lottering, and I started out as a volunteer for AFSP. Well, actually, as a fundraiser in the Greater Houston Area Walk in 2019 for AFSP, and I think I am the type of person that has that desire to share and to help with what's going on. I can see where people are struggling and suffering, and I just want people to have resources. And I actually, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but I lost my brother in 2012.
Okay.
And it was only in 2019 that I found AFSP through a Facebook ad. And what struck me was, how am I only hearing about this now?
Right.
And maybe I could have Googled it. Like maybe I could have Googled it and found it, which is how most people find it. But I just feel like I shouldn't have had to Google it and find it. I know about breast cancer awareness. I know about, heart health. I know about so many different things just without even trying.
Right.
And yet for suicide prevention awareness, I didn't know anything. And I think I felt such a mix of feelings of you know, like almost like what if I'd known more, first before I lost my brother, but also after, like right after, when you go through your own suffering and your own pain and your own, just whatever it is, like just to survive
Yeah,
in that
the
moment.
stages of
Yeah.
Right.
recovery is, yeah.
Yes. So I almost thought it was a joke on Facebook, one of those fake ads. So I went around and looked in my web browser, like then I Googled it and I found it. And so I started I decided this makes a lot of sense. I like what they're promoting. It makes so much sense. And so I signed up, and that was in September of 2019. The walk was in November. I quickly became the top fundraiser. So I then got in contact with with the area director, Cami, whom you had on here before.
Right.
Um, and then it just sort of snowballed from there. I just started volunteering, working on the board, and now this year I'm the chair. I'm the board chair. So yeah, it's been a short stint, but it's quickly snowballed
Wow.
into something.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 2019 was actually my first year as well. So,
oh wow, okay.
yeah. So, are we getting feedback?
A little bit,
Oh, that was weird.
but it's few and far between,
Okay.
so we
Yeah.
should be good.
Yeah. 2019 was my first year as well. And I actually did really well in the first part of that year and then just teetered off. I think I raised like $2,200 that year.
That's great though.
Yeah,
I think that's great.
yeah, it was great, but yeah, I haven't raised as much since then because it's very hard. People are like, it's hard to get people to do repeat donations sometimes. So, go ahead.
Yeah. I have some faithful people that they're like, we're always going to donate to your cause. Like, I have friends who are like, I literally budget for it every year. I'm just donating to your walk, and that's that. And then I have other people who are, I think, at that point, like, yeah, I can't keep doing this every year.
Right,
Right.
right.
But
I need to
do.
budget it. That's what I was fixing to say. That I need to start telling my people it's time for you to budget $50 a year into
coming
your
in,
system, so that when I
yeah,
call you or when I reach out to you, we're good. Now, see, the funny thing is, right before I started this, I had over 1,000 followers on Facebook, and half of them were friends of friends of friends of cousins of friends of dogs of. And so I cleared them all out, and then I started asking for donations. I'm like, well, I kind of did that backwards, but so I'm slowly working my way up. I got my
yeah.
T-shirt last year, so
Oh, that's awesome.
right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I'll say you're right. It is those the people that I think that has been I don't want to say joy, that word sounds a little too like upbeat, but really it has been the honor in all of this is when I share my story and I hear other people's stories, people that wouldn't have shared their stories, that wouldn't have talked to me any other way, but because I started first, I opened up first. So I do find a lot of value in that. One of the things I do with AFSP is the Healing Conversations. And I don't know if you've heard of that program through AFSP, but I think Cami might have mentioned it actually. But it's one where a suicide loss survivor can speak with another suicide loss survivor,
Right.
and just to basically have that connection. Because I think that's the one thing in suicide loss is you're looking around for who knows your pain, who's been through this, like this, and there's still that stigma of shame. Like you don't even want to tell people how
Right.
how they passed away, or you're afraid of the questions they're going to ask. Nobody asks for details when somebody passed away from a heart attack or something like that, but yet for some reason people need to know more.
Did we just lose her?
Oh, we might have. She froze. Weird. We've never had that happen before. Doggone it.
Technical difficulty, folks. Give us a second.
I have no idea what happened. I wasn't touching my computer.
That's okay.
No
I
worries.
guess we just
It just
breathe.
went away completely. But anyway, so that's that's been very helpful. It's both to share my story with other people, get other people's perspectives, and just be a part of their, reminding them that there's hope. That there's hope, and it's a day by day process.
Right. So
Well, it's been a big deal. I'm sorry, Jay, I didn't mean to cut you off.
go ahead.
It's been a huge eye opener for me because I'm not close to anything it hasn't happened in my life, other than close friends and things that have happened in theirs. And to be with Jay and talk about that, it's very hard to hit, but I learned something and I learned a lot, and I'm learning more every day about
Mhm.
what's going on and what happens and how it happens, and their mental health issues that you will learn how to depict what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So, and part of the reason why I did the Andrew episode is for exactly the reason you were talking about. People have a tendency to ask a lot of questions.
Mhm.
I laid it out all on
Mhm.
that episode, and there was no questions
Yeah.
after that point. And I found if somebody needed something and they wanted to be by themselves, but they wanted to find something to relate, that episode could really be helpful
Mhm.
because they could relate, internally or whatever in their own little time.
Mhm.
So, but I mean, I'm definitely there if somebody wants to talk, but it really has. And it was funny. I actually got an email from a friend who said, "You always have all these questions, but you're always too afraid to ask because the person is still struggling, they're still grieving, and you don't want to trigger any additional emotions."
Mhm.
And she actually thanked me for putting that episode together because I spelled things out that most people would never say.
Right.
So it's interesting that you made that comment. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it is you know, I I think the other interesting side to it was watching, and we can get into this, but how differently people grieve. And I think that's an important thing because as a healing conversations volunteer, you need to understand that you may or may not be able to relate with the exact emotions that people are feeling, but you can relate to just the overwhelming amount of emotions.
Yes, 100%.
yep.
So
Yep.
But so just circling back to AFSP and my involvement there, it has been definitely an interesting time because it's during COVID time. So my first year on the board, I didn't really get to see as much in person, and I didn't get to really bond with the board the same way. Like we just stayed separate. We didn't really participate in the things that we would have. So I think this year has been much more exciting for us because we're starting to really ramp up the events that we're tabling and where we're really sharing AFSP. We're obviously able to now do our walks in person and things of that nature. So it does feel a little bit, I think it has a different momentum to it.
I would
And
agree.
for me, yeah, I mean, you can feel it because you're helping with the committee, right?
I am this year for the first time.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, and it does. It just has a different feel to it. So I'm pretty excited about it. For me, I am actually walking in the Woodlands Walk again. I'm going to go ahead and just try to push my fundraising as much as I can for one last year, and then we'll just go ahead and focus on the other activities that I have and the other things that I need to do with AFSP. But I think it's a very good group of people. It's amazing to see, again, taking into account everybody processes differently. So some people after this, they're like, never, I don't want anyone else to struggle this way. I want to make as big of a difference as I can. So I need to really be in this. I need to start a chapter. I need to do whatever it is. And then other people are like, okay, well, I'll be there. I'll just show up the day of the walk because it is my heart. And then other people are like, it's okay. I'll be over here. I'll support you financially. And it is interesting to see how everybody just processes their part in it. But
Yep.
it's important to see we all have a part in it, no matter
Yes.
where we are.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And that's a tough part. So for me,
Mhm,
2018 is when I lost my son.
mhm,
So I did the walk on the night in the 2019. Of course, I skipped 2020. I got back into 2021.
mhm.
But like you said, I was still grieving. I mean, I'm still grieving in a way, but everyone deals with it. And I think this year I decided to take that bigger role because, you know, I think I'm ready to move to that next step, whereas before I wasn't.
Yep. No, it's fair. I think for AFSP, a lot of the more involved volunteer opportunities, they kind of put that 2-year mark on it so that you have some time to really, sit with your grief and your emotions that come from that, just to make sure you're in a place that you can really evaluate where you are right now. It's definitely a lot around that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. So sorry, go ahead, continue. I
Oh
interrupted.
no, I mean, I was just, yeah. So I think with AFSP, it, like I said, it has been a year of growth and learning for this year, and I've really enjoyed doing that. I think for me, when I started out this journey, it was really about getting my brother's story out there and making sure that I used his story for the benefit of somebody else. So like I experienced this, I want to make sure that that if somebody can if I there's just one person that steps away from that ledge, it and I think you understand the ripple effect, of someone taking their life, and how many lives are impacted beyond that, and it just kind of goes outward. And so that's definitely been, you know, was kind of the catalyst to it. And then as I moved on, I kind of reshaped it to where it was also about me. So it's become about me and my brother. It's a way to keep close to him, um, but also find myself in it. So I'm not, lost in it. It's been a very interesting journey, and I mean, I do. I I love the organization. I love its message. I love what they're doing, the research that they're putting out, the programs that they put out.
Right.
I think that we do a great job. We have a great board. We have a great team, and that has it's truly a pleasure to watch everyone in action. Everyone has a different skill set and a strength, and it's just really it's an amazing thing to see.
I think one of the things that was most intriguing to me when I started getting involved with this with Jay was how to learn how to spot if somebody is having mental health issues, or how they respond, how they react, what they do, and the things that are going on in their mind, and learning how to spot to be able to reach out before anything bad happens. That to me is amazing. They
Yeah,
made it really understandable, you know, to somebody that has no idea, which was
yeah.
really good for me.
I think for me, and I think you're right. Like I think for me, what I've learned, like in the Talk Saves Lives, is I could maybe spot that somebody was struggling, but I didn't necessarily know how to address it or what to say. And I think that's where AFSP is really, really comes in with that toolkit of like, here are some things that you could do. One of them, of course, is not trying to fix it, which, I mean, as a
Right.
friend, how can that not be your go-to? And yet
Yes.
it shouldn't
That's
be your
exactly what
go-to.
you want to do is you want to,
Yeah.
hey, well, you want to get in there and fix it. So,
Yeah.
and that's, yeah, I've learned that that's not the case.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And being a good listener, which is again, you want to relate to people, and you want to just you just want to make things better for them.
right.
It's about validation,
Hmm.
validating their pain, validating their struggle, and then from there, yeah, listening. It's and I just took this. We talked about this last episode. I just took this mental health first aid class, and it was really really great. I really enjoyed it. But the key point there for me was, as men, we have a tendency to be fixers. That is an ultimate struggle we will always deal with. But that is a key point you have to resist doing. I mean, when my kids come to me with a problem, what do? I think I got to fix it. Sometimes they're not coming to me for the fix. They need a vent. And that's
Yeah.
a hard thing to deal with. So dealing with this situation, that was the nice thing about the first aid class. It kind of helps you put your mindset a little different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No.
Sorry.
I was going to say, and during this month, that's one of the things we've really been highlighting for the Mental Health Awareness Month is, every Thursday we're presenting one of our programs online. So that you can, whether it's the teen program, More Than Sad, It's Real, we have Talk Saves Lives in Spanish, we have all these different programs. And so what we've been doing during May is every Thursday we're presenting one of those. Now, all throughout the year, we will do one on every third Thursday. But through May and September both, we will focus on just really showcasing all the different programs that are there to try and draw in the audience that's necessary. We've even extended into the elementary school level with our Gizmo program. So Gizmo's Possum Adventure. It's an adapted program from an established program.
Right.
And so we've taken it and introduced it into elementary schools, just about mental health awareness.
Yeah. So I was going to say it's really nice. For those that don't know, it is May. May is the Mental Health Awareness Month. So that's why we're focused a lot. It has been very interesting. Me and Nick are both pretty big in the TikTok. We like to watch a lot of TikToks. And I've been promoting our podcast through TikTok as well. Part of that is we're constantly watching for people, different comments, different whatever. I have been very surprised the amount of people that are promoting mental health awareness for this month on TikTok. It has been really exciting, I guess is the way to put it. It's really been nice to see. So, and it's just random people. It's not even AFSP. It's just people are really promoting the month. And so it was really nice to see.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think that's a good thing about mental health. I think all the organizations can easily agree on the fact that it needs to be at the forefront.
Oh, yeah. No, 100%. Because here's the whole thing. If somebody's dealing with breast cancer, they're dealing with mental health.
Mm-hmm.
They really are. It's depression, acceptance of the fact that they've got cancer. There's just so many different things.
Yes.
So, anyway, so continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh no, I'm enjoying the conversation. So
yeah, no worries, no worries. So I took this mental health. Have you done the mental health first aid class?
The Talk Saves Lives?
No.
Oh.
The whole day class.
I haven't yet. I haven't.
Okay.
It was on our list of things to do our board retreat is in February. So we have we put together an agenda of what our business plan is for the year. And that's one of the things that we have on there is for a few of us to do that.
Yes. So I actually did that this past, not yesterday, but a week ago. Yeah. So it was Julie. We did it up in Magnolia. It was a really great class.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I had a lot of, I don't know, it's sort of like when we have these meetings, somebody says, hey, my name is such and such. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
And my response is always, hey, I'm such and such. I'm not happy to be here, but I'm passionate about being here. So, because no offense, I don't think any of us want to really be there.
Yeah.
But we're passionate about the cause.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things that in the first walk that I did, we're kind of standing around and we're, just looking around and somebody said, wow, there's a lot of people here. And the lady standing next to me said, there shouldn't be any. And I really didn't catch what she said. It took me a second and I went, right, there shouldn't be anybody here.
Yep.
If we all had what we, if we all had a good wish,
Yep.
this event wouldn't even go on.
No, no, it's
Yeah, I
definitely.
thought that was pretty cool.
I mean, it is. I think that that's something that you and Cami might have discussed as well. How, you know, it's not. We can do the best that we can. We can then use the tools that we have, and we can try and help as many people as possible. There obviously is still going to be people who have, who just get to a certain point, but we're trying to make the difference that we can. And I think that it is preventable. For a good amount of people, it's very preventable if we can just intervene in the right way.
Right.
I agree.
One of the things, and I got to give a shout out to my mother, years and years and years ago, and it's generated through our entire family, because we were talking about we're fixers. She would start off, "Hey, listen, I need to talk to you. I just need to vent." And she would go off on whatever was bugging her, whatever was driving her, whatever was not driving her. And my whole family, now we do that. Like,
Yeah.
"Hey, what's going on? You got about 5 minutes?" And Jay and I do that now. We don't actually say we're gonna vent, but when he calls me and he starts in, I know. And when I call him, it's more me, than him. But I'll call him and I'm like, "Hey, you got a minute?" And he's like, "Give me a second to get situated. Let's go." And it helps.
Mhm.
It's unbelievable.
And then
And
and
he
then
just sits there and listens to me.
and then we ask, okay, do you want our opinion or just needed a vent? And
Right.
then you make the decision. If you just wanted a vent, okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
So
That's great. That's good
Yeah.
practice.
It is great. It really does relieve a lot of pressure of whatever the day was or whatever the event was. It's really getting under our skin. It
Yes.
helps me great deal. Best friend ever.
whatever.
That's fantastic. No, that's fantastic. We all need that.
Yes.
Thank you. So great friend. Don't he's Yeah, I know. I'm turning red. You can
That's
quit.
exactly right. See, I got him fired up. That's what I wanted.
What's your sound for blushing?
Yeah. What?
I was asking what his sound was for blushing.
Oh yeah, the little sound on the soundboard over there. You don't have one, do you?
I don't have one.
Yeah.
All I have are creepy things and birds and harps. Here.
Yeah, there you go. Tinkerbell blushing. There you go. No, I'm just kidding.
Right?
So that's funny. No. We do. We have a great relationship, and we do help each other out. I think it's very important, especially after everything that happened with my son. It's great to have that person
Mhm.
that you can go to, and so I do the same thing with my kids. So I talk to my kids, and Nick does the same thing with his kids. He sits and he talks to them and he listens to them, and
Mhm.
sometimes that's what it's about. And then you
Yep.
look at him and you're like, okay, do you want me to fix it or not? It's
Yeah.
what are you wanting here? So
Yep. Yeah.
but
My son's a little bit younger, but I'm definitely learning that balance as well. Because obviously, when your children are young, they want you to fix everything.
Right?
yeah,
Well,
you're
that's when we get used to it. It's like second nature
Yeah.
to us
Yeah.
when the kids start growing up. My son had a rough day at work yesterday, and when he got home, he came in and his head was down. And I'm like, "Hey, bud, what's going on?" He's like, "Man, it was a really rough day." And as soon as he said that, I knew. I got up from whatever I was doing, and I went and stood. He was in the kitchen getting him some orange juice. He said he just wasn't feeling that good. And he went off on his work. Things were going good, blah blah blah. And then in the end of that, he just looked at me, gave me a hug, and it's time to go to bed. And that was it. It was really great.
That's awesome. That's great.
so
He's a good
something to
kid.
look forward to. If you have a great relationship. I have a 24-year-old and a 12-year-old still at home. So
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, big difference in age group there.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, you're talking to two old schoolers here. Yeah, but you'll enjoy it. 5 is a fun age. First year kindergarten. First year
Not
kindergarten.
yet. Not
Okay,
yet.
next year.
Yeah, he's a September baby. So, yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Good for you.
Yeah, because that start. Oh,
Yeah.
that drove me crazy with the kids.
What is it? Sorry.
One started early. Because I have 4 boys. One started early. One started late because of their birthdays where they run in the year, and
Yep.
they were mad about it. Why can't I start? That kind of thing.
So funny. He doesn't know yet. I mean, he still sees school as play, so he's having fun.
That's good.
Isn't,
That's good.
isn't school play all the way up until college?
I don't think so. I feel like there might have been more pressure in middle school and in high
True.
school.
I would love to go back to grade school and high school as opposed to work, but
Yeah.
that was you thought it was hard back then, and now you're like, oh man, that was so easy. I should have done better. I should have done, shoulda, coulda, woulda, right?
Yeah, no, and I think, like honestly, roping it into what we're talking about, I think that is something that's really important. Is, I mean, we do look at when we go through junior high and high school. I mean, it is serious what we're going through in that moment. But once we get past it and we're 20 years, 30 years, however many years past it, we don't even really remember that day where it was such a struggle or a hard day, but and even what led up to it, like all of the events to the detail. And yet like I struggled a lot in high school, and I can remember I can remember the 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 darkness or the pain that I felt, but I can't even really remember. I couldn't even really vocalize like to you right now why, like what was it that led to that.
Right.
And I think that's a hard thing because as a parent, and then having a child, you're trying to figure out like how can I really like um s- you know account for that and be aware of that, and again it's the tools. I think, Jay, to what you're doing, the things that you're doing, I mean, the classes that you took, I mean, those are the kinds of things that we can do, learning to listen to your children and just being there. I think that's all very those are all important things and important steps.
Yes.
And it's going to happen. All kids are going to go through that,
Hmm.
and it's how we work with them to handle it makes all the difference in the world. That's
Absolutely.
the difference between good parents.
Hey,
Yeah.
I was a good parent. At least I thought I was. Okay.
You
You
still are a good
you
parent. There's no
definitely,
I'm
doubt
just
about it.
yeah,
teasing.
no, you
So much better than me.
No, no, no.
You are
I,
so
I,
much better
I,
than
I
me.
do work. I do my best. That's what I always say. Is I
yeah,
do my best. And
absolutely.
you know, being a single father, and I had custody of my kids. You can only do your best.
Yep.
And we all know that mental illness is, there's a chemical imbalance to that as well, and there's something happening in the brain. So I mean, you were doing your best. We all are doing our best. It's just, or I shouldn't say everyone. I can't speak for the world, but you know what I mean.
I know.
Right.
But we are trying our best, I think, in this, and as parents, and it's just, we don't really necessarily know what's going on internally.
Right.
And
Right.
to the points of why it's good to have a health check, a mental health check every now and then, and and try to implore good practices so that like what you're doing now with the open communication, and let me just listen. I'll just listen. But I think that we're all learning, and it's one of those things that I definitely want people to be careful of. When you listen to these programs like Talk Saves Lives and things, I think that if you've lost somebody, it's very easy to listen to it and start to regret. Like you start to think, oh, I didn't do this right, or I didn't do this right. And I think it's important to remember when you're listening to one of those is it's not meant to say that it was up to you, or you did something wrong. It's very important to remember that it's really just giving you tools so that you can just try and help the cause.
So I'm going to go
So
back
where
to.
go ahead, Jay.
I'm going to go
I
back
can
to
come
my.
back with my question.
Okay. Sorry. I'm going to go with my staple comment, the comment I told my kids, and the comment that Nick told me at the end of the episode when we did Andrew's episode. Something that everybody needs to hear. It's not your fault.
Right.
Yes.
And so
Absolutely.
that's what I had to tell my kids, for months after it happened. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. You would not have chose this for him. It's not your
Yep.
fault. And people need to hear it. It's not your fault.
Yep.
And it's an important, just, a couple of words, but it really resonates with a lot of people.
It does. It really does.
So, and I've had to say it a couple of times since then to different people.
Have you had to say it to yourself?
I say, only once. For the most part, I know it's not my fault. Do I ever second guess if I could have seen something? Yes, but I can also look at that and say, I did my best. I know I did my best. I know I love my child.
Absolutely.
And if there was anything I could have done, I would have done. So I can't hold myself accountable for something that's out of my control.
Absolutely. And I think that's the important balance, I think, when you are taking a Talk Saves Lives class, is to remember exactly that. And you taking this course and doing the next step, like when I took the Talk Saves Lives and I got involved, taking this next step is really just trying, to do the best we can in our situation.
So where can people listen to Talk Save Lives?
So if
Is
you
it
go, yeah, so if you go to our chapter website, afsp.org/Southeast Texas, there is at the bottom, there's an events section. So you can see everything that we've been talking about the walk. We have walks all over our chapter. So we're in 33 counties across, that's the Southeast Texas chapter. And we have walks in Pasadena. We have walks in Beaumont. We had a walk in March that was in the Hike for Hope in Galveston. And we also have, of course, the Greater Houston Area Walk. So the Houston Walk itself is afsp.org/Houston. But yeah, that's I definitely recommend anybody that listens to this program to look up just AFSP on its own, just to see the resources it can provide.
right?
I think they have, a lot of our research, our blogs are online, so that if you don't feel comfortable talking to someone yet, there might be a blog that you can relate to online and something to kind of, to let you know that you're not alone in this.
Well, that's one of the things that we talked about before we started the podcast, that we were going to do a few things like this so that people can scroll or search and pick that out and listen and then go, oh, wait a minute, there are people out there that are going through the same pain that I'm feeling right now, or anything like that. And we actually had somebody talk to Jay saying, I listened to your podcast, it really helped me out and I learned a few things. So we actually did say we have helped someone.
That's awesome.
And that was a big deal.
That's fantastic.
Because it's hard to talk about that stuff and it's sad, believe it, but to hear somebody say, I've learned something from your podcast.
Yeah.
We've started the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Need to keep it rolling now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, every life, makes a difference. Absolutely. It's just,
Period.
It's something I put on my own personal fundraising page. Every life, it really does matter.
Very good.
Jake, you're quiet over there.
No, I'm listening. Sorry. It's an emotional subject for me.
Spinning.
Absolutely.
It is. I'm always got wheels spinning. You know me. And I actually, a couple of things. AFSP is actually doing TikTok now, Instagram.
Yes.
And so are they doing reels on Instagram, or are they just posting pictures to Instagram?
I think it's just pictures. I know TikTok for sure.
Yeah.
We have a new volunteer she actually led the Hike for Hope walk event in Galveston.
Okay.
And she's now taken on our social media, and she's having fun with it. She's doing a great job.
Good. Yeah, no. I take some of our clips from our podcast, cut out a minute, post it to TikTok, post it to Facebook, post it to Instagram, that type of stuff. So it's challenging. I'm not a marketing person, but I do my best. So
we're getting there.
I know we are. So we always pick up one or two people with every episode, and it's funny because when we took this class last Monday about the first aid, I actually mentioned that we had a podcast, and we talked about it a little bit. And, I asked the teacher, I said, does it bother you that I mentioned it? And she said, no. And so people asked me, they said, "So what episode?" And I said, "Well, there's a couple of them." I said, we talk about, suicide prevention, and I think we've got 6 total episodes where we talk about suicide prevention or mental health. So, and I, of course, told them, I said, episode 5 and 6 are our 2 big ones, so, and I think it was like 23 and 25, if I remember correctly. So essentially what we did is we actually did a Out of the Darkness walk episode.
Okay.
Right.
Where we talked about the walk, and then we did the post episode, and it was a reactionary episode because Nick had ever been. So he gave his actually first impressions of the event. And so
we also had a coworker come on who had lost her father, and she talked about that, and it was tough for her, and it's been 30 years.
Yeah.
Had Tina on.
Yeah.
So,
and then we
got
had
a few episodes about it.
Yeah. So, but actually, 6 people from that class went and listened to Andrew's episode. So, because it really hit them whenever I said something, and I said I'd lost my son. Most of them in there hadn't actually lost anyone. They were actually there for mental health, or they had a child who was dealing with mental health, or they worked at a police department, or they worked somewhere where they needed the class. I think I was the only one there who had lost someone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's good.
It is good. It's exactly right, because
you want to
people
look
are
at
there
it on a positive
preemptively.
Yes. Because we don't want a whole room full of people that have lost somebody in their family. That's just no.
So what did you think about the class, not having done it yet?
Very informative. Really good. I think Julie does a great job. I think it could have gone a little longer, but I think she still does a really good job. There was just a lot of content, and it's really hard to cover it in a day.
Okay.
That would be my only thing. She does a really good job trying to get it all in, but it's hard to get everything in. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of information there.
Yes, absolutely.
But you can see, I think the key point is you could see her passion come through in how she was giving the class. So that would be the only thing I would say. It was a good class. No, don't get me wrong. It's just, it's hard. It's a lot of information.
It is. Yeah. All of it, even the Talk Saves Lives, I feel like, is a lot of information.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a 50-minute. And so I am actually Go ahead.
I was going to say, you kind of gave me the insight on it. You and I talked in detail about several mental health things, because I not going to the class or anything like that. I asked him, I said, well, did they talk about bipolar disorder? Did they talk about ADHD? Did they talk about was it the anxiety? Just and he kind of touched base on. He said, yeah, we touched base on all of that, and that kind of threw me into wanting to take the class myself, because I right off the bat I wouldn't have thought that's what it would be about. And now that I'm talked to him a little bit, I understand that they give you a little bit about each one of those types of mental health so that you can understand it more.
Yep.
Well, if you're applying first aid, you need to at least understand a little bit. I mean, if you were cut and I didn't know how to treat a cut, I didn't even know what a cut was. I didn't know you needed to wash it off with water. Well, am I helping you out at all? I mean, that's the whole point. So they got to give you a little bit of understanding, and I think that's the key, is they got to give you enough information, because you're there to give first aid. You're not there to diagnose their problem. You're not there to whatever. You're there to make sure they're not hurting themselves and they can seek professional help.
100%. one of the things about my thought process is I'm a visual person. So when you talk about a cut, I can start thinking about things that we need to do that I've learned over the course of however long I've been on this earth. When it comes to mental health, it's not visual
Right.
99% of the time, unless, they're,
Yes. Yeah, and so there was
you
an
know,
interesting point. So I remember we talked about this, and I'm going to share this with you guys real quick, and then we'll move on. When Cammie came on, she talked about everybody talks about committing suicide, and that's the wrong term. We don't want to talk about, somebody took their life, but nobody commits to cancer. So why would they commit to having mental health?
Right.
Why would they do that? And I actually shared that in this class. It was very interesting. But to your point, Nick, it's if you got cut, yeah, you don't see, you see the cut and it's real easy, but there are things that you can see with mental health. If somebody, for example, has an eating disorder, they're losing weight, it's unhealthy weight, and those are the
true.
types of somebody's all of a sudden withdrawn and they no longer, it used to be the life of the party, and now they just don't want to be around with anyone. They don't want to do anything. There
Right.
are signs, and they talk about that in this class. There are signs that will tell you, and all you have to do is, yeah, for a visual person, there are things that you can see,
Right.
and so,
But you have to, those are pretty good, but there are some signs that aren't so readily available.
no,
Losing weight or, those kinds of things. It could just be they're, they all of a sudden get quiet or something like that. But you got to be ready up here
right,
to catch, because it might be so subtle that on everyday lives you get busy and you dismiss it. But if you got it ready up here by taking these classes, then you're like, uh-oh, I need to go see what's going on.
yeah. So, and then the
So it gives
one last point is you don't talk to someone who's bipolar. You're talking to someone who's living with a bipolar disorder.
Mm.
right.
So it's sort of like getting rid of the stigmatism. It's you don't want to call them a bipolar person. It's they're living with a condition. They're they're not cancer. They have cancer. They're living with cancer.
Right.
And so that was the only other point I was going to make.
That is actually an interesting point.
So,
Amen, brother.
that was from the class, by the way.
Yeah.
Very good.
I want to take that class. I really do.
So, anyway, so let's move on. Sorry. Any other mental health things that you want to share, or foundation things?
I think for right now, we're definitely we're out there and we are looking for volunteers now. I think was one thing that was different from 2020 and 2021. We really couldn't participate in the same way, so we really didn't have as many volunteer opportunities.
Right.
And I think now is a really good time. There are a lot of people who, are seeing other people impacted by mental health, mental illnesses, and also, of course, just being worried about it. It's in the media, right? Like what our kids are going through. The statistics are changing now with the teenage girls, in the emergency rooms, more often from attempts. And so I think that, that may compel a lot of people to just want to be involved.
Right.
And so I do encourage people, go onto our website. You can volunteer for our chapter. And we are, trying to build up opportunities to keep people involved because, I'm always saying, we're a mental health organization, so we have to look out for one another as well, even ourselves. We can't just think about the people out there. We have to also think about each other, who we're sitting next to.
Well, and the key point there is self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not in the right frame of mind, how are you going to help somebody else?
Exactly.
Right.
So just remember self-care is very important.
I mean, what is it? Put your own oxygen mask on first before you help someone else. So,
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So, do you want to talk a little bit about your brother?
sure. Sure. I can share a bit with my brother. My brother was older than I was. He was 2 years older, and so we were, you know, I think your typical brother and sister. We hated each other and loved each other more than anybody possible. We grew up very close. Ultimately, we were really. I mean, he was one of my best friends. He was definitely my childhood. He was my childhood all wrapped in a person,
Right.
if you could, right?
Always
So
looking
we
out for
shared,
you and everything. Yeah, exactly.
yes, yes. He was the protective older brother, the doting older brother, but then also very annoyed with me when and I
That's
think we had a few, yeah, we had a few things in our early life that really only he and I could understand the depth of. To each of us it was different, but only he and I could really communicate about it openly the way we could. And so we grew up and we carried that, and we kind of went in our own opposite ways. My brother was actually like and I should say this because I think this is an interesting point, is that we were adopted, so we're from two different families.
oh
Okay.
wow, cool.
Yeah, but honestly, we couldn't have been closer, and that's, I think, the part that is the blessing in this.
Right.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so he grew up and he was a gay man living with all that came with that. In our culture, in our society, and this, the stigma, but also what you personally feel, in that, and the struggles that he felt in that. So that I couldn't necessarily relate to. And I went down a walk of where I was, strong in my Christian faith. And, and also not something we grew up in. So it's still
Right.
just starkly different paths that we took, but we
Right.
still were just, I say it because we were just still so extremely close.
Right.
Yep.
And so, yeah, that's kind of our background. And my brother did struggle. He was diagnosed with multiple mental illnesses. The largest, probably most obvious, prevalent one was bipolar. That one really, I think, controlled a lot of his, emotions and his
Mhm.
moods. And so he had, and I should say, preface early, actually, as early as 9 was his first attempt.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was early on that my mom sort of, became guarded and
Right.
on watch, because she was the one that found him getting ready to do that. And so it was something that she was always on edge about.
Mhm.
But yeah, he struggled in his life off and on, through different ways. And that came out in different ways, is what I mean to say. So it came out in different avenues of, substance abuse and, things of that nature.
Right.
He was always just trying to find a peace in life.
Yeah.
And I guess so when he was a little bit older in life, and I think he'd gotten to a point of where he looked at his mental health diagnosis, and he saw no way out from it. He just thought it was, that dead end, like, this is it, and this is all it's ever going to be. And I think that's the part that breaks my heart sometimes, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
because I can't predict the future, and you can't tell somebody what it's going to be as fixers, right? Like, we want to, you can't. But that it's worth being here and trying.
Yes.
And that's the part that was so challenging with me with him, is I could see the struggle. But I didn't know exactly what to do or say except to be there for him. And that last day, we had, the last week of his life was kind of interesting. It was just weird, and I could tell his mood had changed. He was no longer really happy or really sad, which was really not like him at all. He was just very flat. He was very content in being flat. So I felt
Mm.
like something was off. And we had gone for a run at the park. Well, we crossed paths, so I saw him there, and that was actually the last time I saw him, and that was on Wednesday. And then on Saturday, he wasn't acting quite right, and so we had we my mom and I had like this kind of thing of where we would just check on him. And I went to check on him, and he just he responded to me and he talked to me, and that was it. And I think somewhere during the night, like about 10 o'clock at night, he talked to me only through his door. He didn't open his door. So that night, about 10 o'clock, we talked, we laughed, we joked. I told him I loved him. He told me he loved me, um, and that was the last time I spoke to my brother. And so it's it was it was a whirlwind for me because I actually left town the next day. I had to go for work, so I went to Calgary. And I sensed something was wrong. I knew something wasn't right, but
Right.
the timing didn't work out. So I flew all the way to Calgary, and I found out when I landed. So for me,
Wow.
my faith carried me through a lot of it, from the moment I landed, from the moment I found out. I had an amazing, just strangers were just so kind to me, in unreal ways, in unexpected ways, as I figured out how to get my way back home the next morning so that I could be with my family.
Right.
So for me, my story's a little bit different, I don't share too many details of the actual thing. It is something that we try to practice in like safe sharing of our story. But yeah, so I mean, but I am happy to answer questions if you have any.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So you said you don't share full details during your safe sharing or whatever. So
Mhm.
I can understand that. Unfortunately, I shared
It's
everything.
it,
Go ahead.
Well, it helped you, and you even said that it
Yes.
helps me to talk about it.
Yes.
And so whenever you feel you need that opportunity, you need somebody there to listen. There we go back to just I need to talk.
Yes.
But
So
one of the interesting things that I listen to here is that's one of the things that we need to know is leading up to that point,
yep,
what had happened, how it happened, how you noticed things
yep.
that were starting to change a little bit.
hmm
That's the education that intrigues me so that I'm aware,
It's
just in case.
it's true. The thing that's so interesting, about it is my brother and I, being adopted, always wanted to be twins. So we thought it was fun when people thought we were twins. And he would say, "Oh, we have twin power," and things of that nature. And I think one of the one of the most amazing things was that I sensed something was wrong that day when I hung up the phone, even though it was a perfectly normal conversation. Something just didn't feel right. And I said to myself, I should just go check on him. I should just go. And I'm like, no, you're overreacting. You're just overreacting. And and so it was one of those things where it's like, he's the one person who would have appreciated that our twin power, so to speak, was working, that I had sensed that. And I think it's a very bittersweet, moment to hold with you,
yes.
Right.
So
and and to carry. And so for me, yeah, but my road, my journey for recovery, or not recovery, so to speak, but like just the journey and healing is a better word. My journey and healing, it took a while for me. It I gratefully and kind of unfortunately for my husband, we got married a few months after, and so that put a rough toll on our first year of marriage.
mhm.
um, but I did finally get grounded. I went to counseling, which really helped. And it is where I was fortunate because kind of like you two are to each other, I was able to speak with my mom about it. She and I were we were very close at empathizing with each other. And even though she didn't know what it was like to lose her brother and, her brother, and I didn't know what it was like to lose a child, we could empathize that no two people loved him more than we did.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I think And it was
Great.
important to have that. And I do, I think that's again why it's important to have something like healing conversations for people who may not have, have that. I have definitely, I have friends and have met people whose families, like they've lost somebody and their families won't talk about it.
Yeah, just sweep it under the rug. I don't want.
Yep.
Yeah,
We don't
and
talk
that's
about it.
not that you can't do that. I mean,
That's the stigma part. Yes.
It's the stigma. Exactly. Well, and I
that's
think,
old school.
and it's stigma on so many different levels, right? Because there's also that old world stigma with if we say the word, then it's going to encourage it. It's going to encourage it more. And I
Or it's going
think,
to make us look bad because our family, we can't keep it
yeah,
together. Kind of. Yeah.
yeah. So there's so many different stigmas around the word suicide. It is, it is a tough word. Even it's a tough word to say. Like even for my 5-year-old, I'm very careful not to speak it around him right now because if he were to go to his school and start talking about that, what would his school system think if he's bringing up this word? So it's a balance.
Yeah.
It's definitely a balance.
So I will tell you, um, every year, beginning of the year,
Mhm.
I have a meeting with my 12-year-old's teachers.
Mhm.
And because my 12-year-old was there when we found my son, so he was a witness to it, or the after effects, not to the event itself, but to the after effects. And so I have a meeting. And so they have to have, a discussion. And every year he tells his class about it. And every year he tells them, I lost my brother 4 years ago, 3 years ago, however, whenever, And the teachers and the principals, assistant principals, they all promote, what it takes for him to, so he has like right now he's in middle school and he
Mhm.
has a hall pass that is persistent. So if he ever gets emotional, all he has to do is pull it out of his backpack, hold it up in the air, and the teacher she's not allowed to say anything. She can't, whatever. She's just like, go. And he can get up and walk out of the class. And that is the standing agreement, you know?
That's fantastic. Way to advocate for like his, emotional well-being.
Yes. Yes. And yeah, all the teachers, but yeah, I had a Zoom meeting at the beginning of this year and I had to have it with, not all of them made it, but the vice principal said he would personally have a meeting with all of them. And I
Mhm.
had some of them actually contact me afterwards and ask for additional information. What can we do? Is there anything, if he's having a tough time, is there something I can particularly do instead of him going to the counselor? They were very interested. And so they had no problem. They embraced it. And yeah, it was really good. So,
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I mean, I love that idea. I mean, you hope that nobody ever has to actually employ that idea, but it is. It's a, it takes it, like we've said, you never know if you're going to be the person who notices something. You have to assume that nobody else has when you see something. And so I think what you're doing is great because you're opening the eyes of everybody around him in his, in his world, in his circle.
right. Right. And, that was something they talked about in the class. People actually ask the question, how do you say something? How do you, if you see someone struggling, how do you say something? And I actually, from experience, I actually said something to someone one time. This was last year. And it was really interesting. This is one of the times where my Andrew's story actually helped.
Mhm.
But I'm going to make 2 points here. One, this girl was struggling. I could see it. I asked her how she was doing. She says fine, but I could see out of the corner of her eye just a little bit of a tear starting to come down. So I stopped what I did and I asked her, what's wrong? What do you need? And so she just unloaded and I sat there and listened, you know? And I think the key point for me, and this is what I said in the class, And to your just the point you just made, what if you're the only one
Mhm.
who notices? Do you really want to miss that opportunity to help somebody out?
Mhm.
So it's brave to say something, and it's hard. But if you're the only one, you've got to. That's my attitude. You know,
Mhm.
So I mean, I know people are going to struggle with that, but for me, it's easy because if I could say something to Andrew, I would have.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I say
Right.
anything to anyone else?
Well, I think that there's a stigma that you might offend somebody, and I think that's the other thing we have to do is like, what's the worst that can happen? You just showed someone you cared about them.
Yeah.
That's really what you did.
And you know
That you
what?
cared enough to ask.
If I offend them, but I save their life, I don't care. I saved
Mhm.
their life.
That's
Exactly.
right.
So I know that sounds a little crazy, but
No, does
It
it?
makes perfect sense. I don't blame you. I'd be the same way.
yeah,
I mean, I've walked by somebody and saw that they were, you could just see the stress on them and their heads down and something like that. And I've actually saw a guy one time. I just kind of tapped him on the shoulder and I'm like, "It's gonna get better." And that's all I said. And he looked at me. He goes, "Thank you," and that was it. I mean, that quick, simple thing could have changed his whole perspective on whatever was going on in his life at that moment.
Mhm.
Maybe at that point he went to one of his closest friends or family members and said, "Hey, I need to vent," and that little thing would have kicked it off.
Right.
So I'll do that all day long. I'll look at everybody and go, "It's gonna be better. It's gonna get better. Look at me. It's gonna get better." You know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah. No, happy
Thank
to.
you.
Happy
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. So
Glad you came on the show. This is awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. And I mean, man, I do. My brother was so fun and so caring and just fun loving. So it's always, it to me, I can never express it enough. And like the energy and just who he was, I can never share it enough. But it is he would be amazed. He would be amazed that I have gone on to do so much because I actually was a very reserved person.
Wow, that's awesome.
yeah, good for you. Good for you.
He did that.
So I'm going to say
Yeah,
my famous phrase. It's not your fault.
it is.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, I definitely know that. I probably had to hear that or think it every now and then for maybe the first 2 years.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm I'm past that. I think now it's just about making good of the loss.
Yes. Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. Exactly. Helping
Making
other
a
people.
purpose of it. Yep, making a purpose of it. Right, exactly. It's
Yeah.
one of those I'm not going to have lived through this to keep quiet.
Right. Yes. It becomes a new passion.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes,
Absolutely.
ma'am. So we're going to wrap this up. We hope you folks have enjoyed the show. We have definitely excited about bringing you this episode. I'm never happy when I have to talk about suicide prevention, but I'm always passionate and excited to help people out. And I think that's the key point. Any final words from Nick? I'll let you go.
I just want to just say to anybody that's listening to the podcast, take a few minutes to learn a little bit about what you could possibly do. It doesn't take much out of your life. I've learned so many things just us talking, and I haven't taken a class. So just listening to other people and trying to get yourself a little bit prepared about what can happen and what can be done. That's it. And it doesn't take that much. That's all I want to say is take the time to be aware.
Nice one. Love that one.
There you go.
So, what about you, Heather? Any final words?
Yeah, I would just encourage any of your listeners to go to our website and to see the kind of resources we have, both from an education standpoint, but also for if you've experienced a situation yourself, a personal situation, or if you're, a lived experience or a loss, we have so many resources there for that. And I would just encourage that people look up our website, talk about our website, let people know that we're there, because it's something that's better to not find out 7 years later.
Right.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Yes,
Mhm.
ma'am.
So, I don't have much. For me, I talk about this every episode. So you guys know, for me, it's always about mental health. It's about taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, taking care of your friends. Um, that's just the way I live my life. So, but Nick, I love you, man.
Love you too, brother.
Heather,
Heather, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank
Really
you.
enjoyed it.
yes.
Thank you.
And to our fans, we love you as well. And keep listening, keep following.